National League North review for December, let's get into it. So coming into December, Curzon and Ashton are top of the table with 2 games in hand over Chorley in second and Scunthorpe in third. Kidderminster, Lynn, Buxton and Chester make up the rest of the playoffs. At the bottom of the table, Radcliffe, Marine, Needham, Market and Rushall Olympic are all in the relegation zone. So let's start on Saturday the 7th of December, where due to a mixture of bad weather causing postponements and some teams playing in the third round of the FA Trophy, we only actually had one game played, as 5th place Lynn were at home to 17th place Scarborough. Now Scarborough have been on a poor run of form as of late with only 2 wins in their last 13, and with them struggling with injuries to key players, the last thing they needed was striker Richie Bennett getting a second yellow card for putting Dylan Crowe in a headlock in the 51st minute. But from then on, 10 men Scarborough defended well as Lynn struggled to break them down, and the game appeared to be heading towards a 0-0 draw until an absolute screamer of a strike from centre-back Greg Taylor in the 81st minute won the game for Lynn, and what a signing he has been. He was brought in as the replacement for centre-back Adam Crover, who was sold to Southend, so he had big shoes to fill, but he has been excellent, and this 1-0 win moves Lynn up into second, while Scarborough stay in 17th, 4 points above safety. Now on to Tuesday the 10th of December, where we had a handful of midweek fixtures played, and let's start with top of the table Curzon Ashton, whose incredible season continues with a 1-0 win away at Warrington thanks to a Devon Matthews header, and Warrington barely laid a glove on a Curzon side who have by far the best defence in the league. It's already 15 clean sheets in all competitions, only 11 goals conceded in 19 games, and with those defensive stats, it's no surprise that they sit 3 points clear at the top of the table. Now on to 8th place Hereford, who were looking to move up into a playoff position if they could beat 13th place Darlington, but after a first half of very little quality, it was Darlington who took the lead 55 minutes in through the returning Jack Lambert, who joins on loan from Kidderminster for a month, and at the age of 25, this is already the 4th time he's signed for Darlington, and they'll be hoping that he can rekindle the form that we know he's capable of. But Hereford have delved into the transfer market as well, bringing in the 24-year-old American Declan McGlynn, who's been playing semi-professional football over in the United States for Ballard FC, and on his first start for Hereford, he brought the game back level at 1-1. Now, from what manager Paul Caddis has said, he has relatives based in the West Midlands, so he's come over to the UK to try and break through here, and it was his goal that levelled the game up at 1-1. And this game looked to be heading for a draw, with neither side really playing at their best, but that was until the 81st minute when Hereford made the mistake of giving Darlington's free kick specialist Will Hatfield an opportunity from just outside the box, and Hatfield curled the ball into the bottom left corner to give Darlington the 2-1 win, as Hereford missed their chance to climb into a playoff position. 9th place Brackley were also looking to move up into a playoff position if they could beat 17th place Scarborough, but Brackley were up against it right from the off as only 3 minutes in, winger Justin Donovan was sent off for a foul on Alex Wiles. So with Brackley down to 10 men, Scarborough dominated the ball as they were tasked with breaking down a side who defended incredibly deep, but for all of Scarborough's possession, it was a long throw-in that eventually gave the breakthrough as Kieran Wellergy fired past keeper Johnny Maxted to put Borough 1-0 up in 28 minutes. Despite being down to 10 men, Brackley did cause problems going forwards, and 47 minutes in, winger Morgan Roberts, who's a real handful to defend against, finished brilliantly to level the game up at 1-1. And as mentioned before, Scarborough have been in really poor form, and having a small injury hit squad certainly hasn't helped, so it was a huge boost for them to get 2 new signings through the door. Midfielder Michael Woods and right back Jack Waldron both made their home debuts and both looked impressive in this one, and things are starting to look a bit more positive for them when in the 96th minute Alex Brown smashed the ball home to give Scarborough a very late winner. Brackley was so close to coming away with a well-earned point, but a vital 3 points takes Scarborough up into 15th. So whilst both Hereford and Brackley missed the opportunity to move up into a playoff spot, 10th place Alfreton capitalised on their chance with a 1-0 win at home to Marine to take them up into 6th place, but 22nd place Marine played well and had plenty of chances, but as usual they couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. This is Marine's 9th away game and they've failed to score in 8 of those. Their main striker Bobby Grant has been injured all season, so they've got 2 young lads up front in Callum Murphy and Enoch Decemeber, who are both new to the level and are both trying to make the step up, but they need some experience alongside them in those forward areas, and they desperately need some goals, otherwise they'll be getting relegated. And let's move on to bottom of the table Rushall Olympic, who at the end of November sacked manager Adam Stevens, so for this game away at South Shields, first team coach Richard Sneak stepped in as the caretaker manager, and as the goals going in this one, I'm just going to talk about what's gone wrong at Rushall this season. So this is Rushall's 2nd season at the National League North level, and it was always going to be a tough 2nd season for them. Over the summer they lost manager Liam MacDonald, who had been at the club for 6 seasons, and he did an incredible job. He consistently had them punching above their weight and took Rushall to their highest league position in their history last season, but over the summer he left to manage Stourbridge, which was a huge blow, and alongside losing their long-term manager, they also lost several key players. Player of the season Alex Fletcher went to Tamworth, club captain Christian Green left, defender Jordan Brown went to Stourbridge, along with a whole host of other departures, so they had a big rebuild job on over the summer. This season 30 plus new signings have been made and there just seems to be no cohesion. The lineup has been changing from week to week, and whoever Rushall appoint as their next manager, will have a massive job on their hands trying to keep them up as they sit bottom of the table, 8 points from safety. But I have to give mention to South Shields, who are the form team in the division at the moment. It's 5 wins in their last 7, and in those 7 games they put 3 past Warrington, 5 past Farsley, 4 past Alfreton, and now 7 past Rushall Olympic. It's no coincidence that they've started scoring all these goals since last season's top scorer Paul Blackett came back into the side after injury, and this win puts them up into 8th. So after those games, Curzon extend their lead at the top of the table to 3 points. A win for Alfreton puts them up into the playoffs, while South Shields' win puts them just outside in 8th. At the bottom of the table, there's no change, with both Marine and Rushall Olympic failing to pick up any points. Now on to Saturday the 14th of December, where we finally got a full set of fixtures played, and let's start with top of the table Curzon, who were at home to 8th place South Shields. And I just talked about how South Shields have been one of the form sides in the division and have been scoring for fun, but Curzon put an end to that good run of form with a convincing 3-0 win, and Curzon just look superb at the moment. When they attack at speed with a bunch of direct pacey players. Then with Jimmy Spencer playing as the striker, he's doing an incredible job leading the line. Defensively they look formidable, with this being their 16th clean sheet of the season, and on crowds of 2 to 300 manager Craig Mann has got them punching well above their weight, and this win moves Curzon 5 points clear at the top with still a game in hand. Now on to 3rd place Chorley, who suffered a 1-0 defeat away at Hereford to make it 3 losses in their last 4, and with the amount of injuries they've got to key players, it's no surprise that they're struggling to keep pace at the top. They've got 4 loan players in the starting 11, 3 of those have been at the club for less than a month, so until they get the likes of Mark Ellis, Adam Blakeman and Craig Hewitt back fit, it could potentially be a struggle for them. On to 22nd place Marine at home to 4th place Scunthorpe, and this was an absolute must win for Scunny, who find themselves 5 points off the top and haven't looked particularly convincing this season, but struggle as Marine absolutely bossed the first half and deservedly took the lead through Lee Whelan's strike 17 minutes in. As we got to half time, Marine really should have been more than 1 goal up, but for the second half they opted to sit back to try and see the game out rather than going for a second. In the 79th minute, Marine captain Josh Wardle was adjudged to have brought down substitute Danny Whitehall, who then took his penalty well to bring the game back level at 1-1. And Scunthorpe finally woke up for the last 20 minutes, and being a full-time side, their superior fitness levels started to show, and whilst this wasn't a good Scunthorpe performance by any means, in the 92nd minute Danny Whitehall scored his second of the game to break Marine hearts, and a 2-1 win takes Scunny up into second. Phil Brown's Kidderminster side are in red hot form at the moment, and a 4-0 win away at Radcliffe takes them up into third, and the strength of this kiddie side is really starting to show because they're missing some good players, the likes of Summerfield, Beresford, Penny, Davis and Kuya, yet they were still able to put in a superb performance like this, and a lot of credit has to go to Phil Brown, who has had to dip into the transfer market and has brought in the likes of Cam Candola and Riley Reynolds, who have come in and done brilliantly, which has meant they haven't missed the injured players as much as they could have, but a superb performance from Kidderminster with the front three really clicking in this one, and this win puts them up into third. Now let's move on to Farsley Celtic versus Buxton, which was a bit of an unusual situation. Due to ongoing issues with Farsley Celtic's pitch, they've been playing their home games for the first half of the season at Buxton's ground, so whilst this was officially an away fixture for Buxton, it essentially became a home game for them, and Buxton won this game thanks to 2 goals from Luke Brennan, with his second being a thing of beauty, cutting in from the left and firing into the top right corner. But this wasn't quite as straightforward a win as Buxton would have hoped for, as despite Farsley's off the field troubles, which we'll get into a bit later on in the video, they put up a good fight and pulled a goal back through a penalty to make the game 2-1. But it's no surprise that Farsley Celtic have the worst home record in the league when they effectively don't have a home, and they are just about keeping themselves above the relegation zone in 20th. On to Spennymoor versus Leamington, and Leamington were looking to get their season back on track after 5 straight defeats have seen them slip down the table into 17th, but a day before this game Leamington announced the return of Dan Turner on a month's loan from Chester, and his sublime pass picked out Henry Landers, who put them 1-0 up just 11 minutes in. And Leamington were all out attack for those first 20 minutes and created numerous chances and should have been more than 1-0 up, but Spennymoor finally started to come into the game, and in the 57th minute the excellent Glenn Taylor curled one in from the edge of the 18-yard box to bring the game back level at 1-1. And after that goal, Spennymoor had the momentum and piled the pressure onto the Leamington defence, and in the 69th minute what should have been a routine catch from Callum Hawkins was fumbled into the net to put Spennymoor 2-1 up. But for the final 20 minutes it was Leamington who started to pile the pressure on Spennymoor, and in the 78th minute a shot from Williams was saved by James, but the ball fell to Callie Stewart, who tapped the ball in from close range. However, the lino flagged for for offside to rule the goal out. Spennymoor made hard work of it for that final 20 minutes, but they held on for the 2-1 win, and that's now 6 defeats in a row for Leamington. So after those games, Curzon are in an excellent position, 5 points clear at the top with a game in hand over most of the teams around them. Scunthorpe, Kidderminster and Lynn all sit below on 37 points, and in the bottom 4, Needham Market were the only side to pick up a point as they moved to 3 points from safety. On to Tuesday the 17th of December, where we had 2 midweek fixtures played, and unfortunately there's no highlights of this one, but a 1-0 win for Lynn at home to Brackley moves them up into second and puts them just 2 points behind first place Curzon. However, we do have highlights of the second game where Hereford put themselves back up into a playoff spot with a 1-0 win at home to Scarborough, but it was an absolute clanger from the keeper Ryan Whitley, who let Jaden White's shot go straight through him. Scarborough had a lot of possession but a lack of quality in the final third as they struggled to break down a Hereford side who weren't exactly free-flowing going forwards, but they were incredibly well organised, and it was a brilliant team performance to see the game out and win 1-0, but this win puts Hereford up into 5th and keeps Scarborough in 14th. Now on to Saturday the 21st of December, where we had a full round of fixtures, and we'll start with Curzon, who have been excellent as of late, and I've talked about how brilliant their defence has been. They've got the best away record in the league and they sit top of the table, and they were coming up against a Leamington side who had just lost 6 games in a row, so logic would dictate that this should be a straightforward Curzon win, but Leamington absolutely thumped Curzon, a 4-1 win which I don't think anyone saw coming. Now there was a bit of a shaky 20-minute spell for Leamington in the second half when Curzon pulled it back to 2-1 and were getting into the game, but Leamington were able to reassert themselves with Henry Landers and Callie Stewart as the pairing up front, causing all sorts of problems. A hat-trick for Callie Stewart takes him on to 14 goals for the season, and at only 22 years old I think Leamington may struggle to hold on to him till the end of the season, but a big win for Leamington to stop the run of defeats, and this win keeps them in 17th. So a win for second place Lynn away at Chester would take them to the top of the table, but these two sides played out a 1-1 draw, and Chester had chances to win this one but were incredibly wasteful in front of goal, and we have to talk about striker Kurt Willoughby, who 2 seasons ago scored 27 goals for Chester in the National League North, but so far this season he scored just 2 goals, was subbed off after half-time and looks a shadow of his former self. He started the season okay, but then he got moved out of position to play out wide. He then missed a couple of penalties and now looks to have the confidence completely drained from him, and Chester dropped down into 12th and sit 4 points off the playoff. Now on to Alfreton, who if they could beat 22nd place Radcliffe would move up into a playoff spot, and just 2 minutes in, the smallest man on the pitch, Cosmos Matsawa, wins a header which falls to Jed Abbey, who turns and picks his spot brilliantly to put Alfreton 1-0 up. But in the second half, Radcliffe really put Alfreton under a lot of pressure and should have been level, but Alfreton weathered the storm, and in the 71st minute, Tunde Owalabi gave the ball away, and 2 quick passes later, striker David Moyo, who's proving to be a very effective super sub, scored his 4th of the season to put Alfreton 2-0 up. In the second half, Radcliffe played well, and the Alfreton goal did come against the run of play, so the signs of encouragement there for Radcliffe, as in the 76th minute, a very well worked move saw Danny Greenfield finish well to pull a goal back, but it was too little too late as a 2-1 win moves Alfreton up into 7th and Radcliffe stay in the relegation zone. Now on to 19th place Warrington, who went into their home game against 6th place Buxton with no wins in 9, but they put an end to that winless run with a 1-0 win as Buxton gifted them a penalty when Sasnoskas handled the ball with absolutely nobody around him, but this was a Warrington side without their best player Connor Woods, without their captain Josh Amos, and without their midfield enforcer Jay Harris, so this was a huge win for them as they go 6 points above the drop zone. Another side in relegation trouble who are desperate for a win is 23rd place Needham Market, who were up against Darlington, and this was a poor game that was not helped by the miserable conditions that it was played in, and it appeared to be heading for a 0-0 draw until the 81st minute when Darlington won the game through an absolute banger of a strike from Will Hatfield. This win moves Darlington up into 13th, but if you look at the form table over the last 10 games, Darlow are in 6th, so they're definitely heading in the right direction and pushing for the playoffs. As for Needham Market, they remain in the bottom 4, 4 points from safety. So after those games, despite Curzon's defeat, they remain top, whilst Kidderminster's victory over Southport moves them up into 3rd. A 0-0 draw sees Scunthorpe drop into 4th, with Chorley, Hereford and Alfreton making up the rest of the playoffs. At the bottom, it was a bad day for the sides in the relegation zone, as all 4 of them lost, and with Farsley picking up a point, then wins for Warrington, Oxford and Leamington, meaning the bottom 4 teams are all further away from safety. Now on to Boxing Day, but before we get into the action, I thought I'd do a quick update on the Farsley Celtic pitch situation. As many as you know, Farsley Celtic's home ground has been out of action all season due to their new pitch not being laid in time for the start of the new season. The chairman David Barthorpe originally said the pitch would be ready at the end of August, but that date came and went. He then said it would be ready for mid-October, but once again that date came and went with still no progress on the pitch. He then said that the pitch would be ready for their New Year's Day fixture at home to Radcliffe, but on Christmas Eve, just a week before the fixture, it was announced that the game will be played at Radcliffe now, with Farsley Celtic's ground still unfit to play in. For the first half of the season, Farsley Celtic Celtic have been playing their home games at Buxton, but that ground sharing agreement appears to have run out, and there's still no idea where their home game against Rushall Olympic on January the 4th will be played. With the bar staff owed thousands in wages and with no work being done on the pitch, there's clearly some cash flow issues at the club, so it's all a bit of a mess. And on Boxing Day they were away to top of the table Curzon, who were looking for a response after their 4-1 defeat away at Leamington last match day, and Curzon took the lead 32 minutes in with a Jimmy Spencer header. And the odds really were stacked against Farsley in this one. They've only got 2 wins in their last 14, they only had 2 players named on the bench in this game, and with rumours of an incoming embargo they won't be able to sign players, but 2 goals in quick succession just before half time from the on loan Finn O'Boyle turned the game around, and Farsley incredibly went in at half time 2-1 up. Curzon had the better of the chances in the first half, and I expected them to turn this game around, but 52 minutes in, Devon Matthews was shown a second yellow card to put Curzon down to 10. And from then on, it only looked like one team were going to win this, as 20th place Farsley pushed for a third, and 72 minutes in, DJ Campton-Sturridge put Farsley 3-1 up to seal an incredible win, with only 2 subs on the bench away at top of the table, and with all the problems off the field, it's a superb result in the circumstances, as Farsley just about keep themselves above the relegation zone. So with back-to-back defeats for Curzon, it was over to second place Kings Lynn, who could go top with a win, but they slipped up and drew 2 apiece at home against a struggling Needham market side, and we don't have any highlights for this one, so we'll just move on. So it was over to third place Kidderminster, who had the chance to go top of the table, but they were away to local rivals 6th place Hereford, with almost 5,000 fans packed into Edgar Street and a sold out away end. It was going to be a tasty fixture. And Kidderminster put Hereford under pressure right from the off, and if you'd told Kiddie fans last summer that Zach Brown was going to be one of their most influential players, they probably would have laughed at you, but his screamer just 9 minutes in shows why he's one of the first names on the team sheet for Kidderminster this season. And Hereford have been in good form as of late, but they struggled to get anything going against the Kidderminster side, who were full of energy, with Reynolds and Brown in midfield so quick to close down. And just after half time, Kiddie were 2-0 up when Topi Obadiah chipped Hereford keeper Tom Donaghy, who was way off his line, to put Kidderminster well in control. And this was easily the best Kidderminster have played all season, and the performance was rounded off with Amari Morgan-Smith scoring an absolute belter, and the standard of the 3 goals was as good as you'll see anywhere, and Kidderminster just looked too strong for Hereford, and this 3-0 victory takes them to the top of the table. Now on to 4th place Scunthorpe, who got a much needed win away at Peterborough Sports, but they left it late with an 86-minute winner from substitute Callum Roberts, who got a bit of luck with his goal taking a big deflection. And whilst it's 6 games unbeaten now for Scunthorpe, I think there's an acceptance that they do need to improve if they are to win the title. In this 6-game unbeaten run, there has been 3 0-0 draws in there, but as long as they stay solid at the back, they've got players like Roberts, Whitehall, who can win them games with moments of brilliance, and this win keeps them up into 4th. Now onto the Derbyshire derby, as local rivals Buxton were at home to Alfreton, and with Alfreton being in 7th and Buxton being in 8th, there's not much separating the 2 sides this season, and it was Alfreton who took the lead 10 minutes in through Lewis Salmon. But that lead lasted just 8 minutes as Kieran Burton prodded home at the back post to get Buxton level. Back in November, Buxton signed winger Luke Brennan on a permanent deal from Fylde, and he's turning out to be some signing, as 28 minutes in he uses his pace to burst down the left and picks out Tom Elliott, who headers in to turn the game around and put Buxton 2-1 up. But Alfreton really are a team of giants, and Buxton did struggle to deal with them in the air at times, and just 6 minutes later winger Billy Whitehouse picked out the massive Max Hunt at the back post, who came back to haunt his former club and levelled the game up at 2-2. But then just 4 minutes later, Buxton were awarded a penalty, and Conor Kirby had the chance to make it 3-2, but George Willis in the Alfreton goal pulled off a save to keep the game at 2-2. But this absolutely mad first half wasn't quite done just yet, as just before half time, Papula plays the ball through to Ben Salt, who takes a touch past his man, then swivels to fire the ball into the net and make it 3-2 Buxton at half time. After an explosive first 45 minutes, the game settled down in the second half, and despite Alfreton's best efforts, it was Buxton who came away with the local bragging rights, and this win puts them up into 5th. Now on to Chester, who made the short trip over to 21st place Marine, and this was a must-win for Chester manager Callum McIntyre, who's been coming under a lot of pressure with Chester sat 12th, which is below where they want to be. And Chester have not had a fun time on the road this season. They have the 3rd best home record in the league, but Chester's away record would have them in 20th, so this was a potential banana skin, but goals from Motley Henry, Murray and Harrison Burke put Chester 3-0 up inside 58 minutes in what was a clinical display. But after Marine not being at it for the first 60 minutes, striker Enoch Lizima was brought on, and he gave the Chester defence something to think about, and provided a focus focal point up front, pulling 2 goals back in the 70th and 88th minute, but despite a spirited last 20 minutes from Marine, it was too little too late as they remain in the relegation zone, 6 points from safety. But this was a big win for Chester, who put themselves to a point outside the playoffs. Now on to 11th place Darlington, who were looking to continue their good run of form at home to 14th place Scarborough, and just 11 minutes in a lovely touch from Cedric Main, who then picks out Will Hatfield, who's in superb form at the moment, with his 7th goal of the season to put Darlington 1-0 up. But after a bright start from Darlington, Scarborough managed to turn this game around in bizarre fashion, with the first goal an absolute gift from Elliot Forbes, who played the ball back to Jameson, but the keeper was out of his net and the ball went into the empty goal. And just 11 minutes later, Scarborough defender Jack Waldron wins the ball on the halfway line, bursts forward to the edge of the box, and I think he's trying to cross the ball to the back post to pick out Richie Bennett, but it loops over Jameson's head to put Scarborough 2-1 up. But once again, this was another game that was goals galore, and as soon as Scarborough turned this game around, Darlington were back level with a well-worked move as Cedric Main, whose hold-up play is always superb, and with him being so stocky, defenders struggle to knock him off the ball, and he lays it off to Caden Kelly, who finishes well for 2-2. But in the second half, as the fog rolled over, Scarborough just never got going. On the day, there can be an excellent pass inside, but it was a lot of long ball up to the big man Richie Bennett, which is becoming quite predictable, and it's hard to see them kicking on up the table until they get their best players back from injury. But goals from Caden Kelly and Toby Lees put Darlington 4-2 ahead. In the 90th minute, Scarborough did pull a goal back late on, but good luck trying to spot the ball in this one, as I've no idea what happened. But a 4-3 win for Darlington, who move up into 10th, just a point outside the playoff positions. So after those Boxing Day fixtures, Kidderminster leapfrog both Curzon and King's Lynn into 3rd, while Scunthorpe stay in 4th, but it's all very tight, with Buxton in 5th and South Shields in 12th being separated by only 2 points. At the bottom, a gap is starting to form between the relegation zone and safety, with Radcliffe, Marine and Needham Market all 6 points off safety, whilst Rushall Olympic are cut adrift at the bottom, sat 12 points from safety. For the final match day of the video, there was only one game played on New Year's Eve, which finished around 10 minutes ago, so I don't have any highlights, but a 3-0 win for Scunthorpe at home to King's Lynn, means Scunthorpe finished the year top of the table, however with a full set of fixtures to be played on New Year's Day, there's a chance that they won't be top for very long. But at the end of 2024, Kidderminster, Curzon, King's Lynn, Buxton, Chorley and Hereford make up the playoffs, but it's so tight, with 12th and 7th being separated by only 1 point. At the bottom of the table, the bottom 4 has remained the same all month, with Radcliffe, Marine, Needham Market and Rushall Olympic all in the relegation zone. So that is the video done with, and join me at the end of next month when we'll review all the action for January.